What is the craziest thing that ever happened at your school? A guy got on the campus bus with an umbrella that had a fake gum as the handle. Someone called it in and the campus went on lockdown. The kid with the umbrella was locked down in his dorm room too, thinking something was actually going down. Eventually the police found him and found that it was just an umbrella. Not too long after that, there were t-shirts being sold that said something along the lines of "I survived the umbrella incident." A student activated one of the fire hoses on the walkway above the quad and spent a glorious 5 minutes blasting people. When the teachers tried to get him, he turned the hose on them and kept them away riot control style. They finally got him when they turned off the water supply. What happened to the kid? Expelled, I believe. Not necessarily happened at school. But my junior year we had a gum threat called into the high school and the middle school, which entailed literally 95% of the police force in total stationed at each school. Turns out it was just a cover up for some guys to rob a local pharmacy. Since there were no units available to react to the robbery, they got away with it. Ducking geniuses. Yeah. If I were to ever do some big crime thing, I would set explosives off all over the town first. A pregnant student, 10th grade, 15 years old, got into a fight with a security guard over a stolen breakfast sandwich. Another student got involved, not sure how, and pushed the pregnant girl through a display case window. She then went into labor. All before 8 AM. I went to an international school abroad. They had bake sales. This stoner kid in the 11th grade thought it would be funny to bring pot brownies. A few teachers and students ate the brownies and got high. A lot of very pissed off parents and teachers that day. My school was super lenient. Nobody ever got suspended or expelled. This kid was the first and only one to ever get expelled. This happened to my school. Except a teacher who ate one had a horrible allergic reaction to it and could have died. I knew a kid who everyone thought was cool. Until one day he gathered the whole class around his table, with him thinking it would be a great idea to show everyone his fully erect pen 15. He quickly became the school weirdo after that. 4 kids got into the school that night, got a golf cart and drove it around inside the cafeteria. When the cops came and let the dogs out, one of the kids hit a police dog. They tried to say it was just a senior prank. Bro. In some places hitting a police dog carries the same consequences as hitting an officer. Guy in the town I went to uni got in a ton of shit for saying a police horse looked gay. He refused to apologize as he didn't think the horse was offended. Also, a guy in a city near me got in a load of shit for punching a police horse after his football team got beat by their rivals. Middle school, a teacher got fired for attacking a student during our field day. High school, someone put weed in the incense burner during mass. College, our rebellious ex-mascot led the campus police on a 20-minute high-speed chase when he stole one of their mopeds. In high school, hot chick that was totally into buying Drew Gus off dudes was secretly a 22-year-old narcotics agent and busted the duck out of a shit ton of people. Also in high school, kid was brought to the office for something minor. Don't remember what, but it was super minor. Not Drew Gus, not weapons. Was something laughable. But that was the point. He made them call the police to have him strip searched and demeaned in front of everyone just to make the point about police going too far. Gotta respect the kid for his conviction. Probably ducked up his college applications though. This chick started sucking people off for french fries. Also, when the special ed kid set a bookshelf on fire. Or when a guy climbed the band tower naked after eating a bunch of mushrooms. He chose to do this during band practice. One particular student had a fairly rocky relationship with the 8th grade science teacher. The kid had received ICE, in-school suspension, for acting up in class one day and came to see the teacher after school was out. He had a master lock and a tube sock and smashed the teacher's cheekbone. Update, additional story. I was talking to some friends who went to the same school last night and was reminded of another incident. The school released the kids by floor to try and mitigate disasters. The third floor good kids would release first and would have 15 minutes to gather their stuff and get to their respective mode of transportation. Then they would release the other floors with the bad kids. It was our first year at the school, 6th grade, and during the 15 minutes they gave the third floor kids to gather your sheet and get to the quasi safety of the bus, our friend had to run to the orchestra room because he forgot his viola. Well, that put him right in the middle of the second floor release and things were not pretty. Some kid ran up on him and snatched his viola case out of his hands. If that weren't enough, he swung it by the handle and decked our friend. He dropped orchestra after that. Edit, ice equals and school suspension. Two ladies were fighting. Everyone was crowded around watching. One ripped off the other's weave and stood up on a table swinging it around like a trophy. I went to a pretty good high school and saw quite a few of these fights. What's amazing is when the weaves start flying in all directions like it's part of a cartoon or something. Also, one time a big old girl took out her hoop earrings and handed them to her friend, who then handed her a tub of Vaseline so that she could grease herself up. The action was so smooth though. Like this was a thing that you do before any confrontation. I was at an all-boys school, but our sister all-girls school had the same muck-up day as us in year 11, 15/16 yo. Basically it was the last day of term before study leave and your big summer exams. And you went around doing whatever the duck you wanted to. A bunch of girls arrived early in that day, and with a bunch of condoms filled with lube went around all the hallways and door handles and covered it all up. Cue the second year math teacher about 7 months pregnant being the first to walk up the stairs onto the first floor. She opens the door, walks though and slips, almost falling and seriously damaging the baby. Girls get in a duck ton of trouble. And it threw a dour mood over everything else that happened that day. Needless to say, every muck-up day since then has been sheet and much more tightly controlled. My ex-boyfriend from high school went to high school across town from me. He texted me during second period and just says there's a shooting at my school. Obviously. Cue freak out. I ask to be excused. Attempt to call him. No answer for almost 10 minutes. Turns out a kid had brought a gun to school and shot himself in the middle of the crowded lunch area. Everyone had to step around him and evacuate the school. Guy in my grade took a sheet in a random library book and put it back on the shelf. It took like 3 days to find the book. Please tell me this was elementary school. High school. We had a kid bring a gun to school. He shot at a trophy case and eventually was talked down by the principal. The school was on lockdown, and the whole situation was pretty crazy. Thankfully, he didn't end up shooting anyone. Edit. Here's a link to an article explaining the scenario for anyone interested. Dude baked a space cake and brought it to a school party. Oblivious. Sheltered girl ate a huge slice of it. Freaked out and got rushed to the hospital because she assumed she was dying. Legal action threatened. And he got suspended right before the final exams. I guess I'm sheltered too. What's a space cake? Cakes with marijuana in them. Kid got stabbed by another kid at lunchtime whilst watching a well-attended soccer match. In view of everyone around. Stabber bolted for it. Chaos ensued. Victim ended up being okay, missed any vital organs, and the stabber got caught eventually. Same here. England. Australia actually. But no way. This happened at your school too. Teacher suffered from depression and was clearly high, so he put a movie on. All of a sudden the smell of iron was very strong. Look over and he had slit his wrist with a box cutter. The smell didn't leave the hallways or room for weeks. Did he die? What grade? I was in a 9th grade at the time. No. He didn't die. Pretty sure he was in a hostage situation a couple months later. I had heard about Coricidrin cough and cold, DXM robber tripping, on the internet and decided I'd try it out with a friend while at school. The day was a blur of weird metallic noises, being spaced out, and I ended up knocking a bat down from one of the eaves on the side of the building into a brown bag. I signed myself out and took it to the vet to get it checked out because I wanted to keep it as a pet. They looked at me like the dumb bit I was and made me release it outside, and then I got cussed out by my mother. I played it off that I was just trying to take care of an injured animal and lied that those bats were endangered in our area. No consequences. Edit: I misread this as what was the craziest thing that happened to you at your school? Still leaving it. In high school, a fist fight broke out near the band room. The band teacher, a tall thin guy with glasses and a comb over, came out to break it up. Now the two guys fighting were fairly athletic guys that looked like they could break this poor guy in half. But he waited in trying to contain the problem. He grabbed one of the student's shoulder to pull him off the other student. And the kid turned and elbowed him right in the mouth. Well, this unassuming band teacher just belted the student in the jaw. And he went down and out. The other kid just gaped at the band teacher and put his hands up and waited quietly for the principal and vice principal to get. No one ever saw that coming. Someone wore a gorilla mask and ran around nude in the cafeteria screaming about haram. Some guy I knew identified a teacher on a Facebook video involving a priest eating an unzaz filled with her own sheet. He got his ass expelled from school permanently. So the snitch was expelled or the teacher was fired. Either way, that's wrong. A girl took a video of her putting peanut butter on her pussy and having her dog lick it off. She then sent it to her boyfriend, and when they broke up he sent it to the whole school. Girl became a social outcast and everybody called her dog pussy or dog ducker. We have. It's still there. A canal opened in 1790 that ran pretty close to the school. We used to use the towpaths to walk to the shops at lunch. One day a fellow ragamuffin found a small lump of metal falling away from the embankment. He dug it out with his heel and discovered it was an old ordnance grenade. We thought not much of it, so decided to give it a wash in the canal. Cleaned it up some and scrapped off some rust. It was pretty obvious what it was, so we decided, 14 years old mind, that the history department would live to have this piece of local history. Maybe not my mate's smartest move. He took it to the department head and put it on her desk. GOM squad arriving to remove said ordnance and carry out a controlled detonation of the very much lived grenade in a field behind the school. Poor Jabi got 2 weeks school suspension in the middle of summer for that. Sad. But still crazy. Back in high school there was an explosion in the auto shop. As far as I know they were making homemade barbecues, and the first step consisted of opening old gas barrels that were supposed to have been empty. Well, one kid was cutting his open and caused a big explosion. We were all evacuated to a nearby school. The guy died shortly after in the hospital. Great guy. Was my older sister's good friend. If you guys keep posting the same question for karma, I'm gonna keep posting the same story for karma. Some crazy high schooler brings in a dummy grenade. During quiet study time in class, he stands up and yells, "I'll heal you all." Pulls the pin and rolls it down the aisle. The teacher instantly springs up and dives on the grenade. There was rumor that Luke was going to fight Sam, but when we all followed to catch the action they sort of threatened each other and then went to class. My school was boring as shit. When I was in the 8th grade, a kid who sat next to me excused himself to go to the bathroom and shot and healed himself. Another kid walked in and discovered the body, and you could hear screaming down the hall. Teachers were crying and school was cancelled for the rest of the week. I just don't like that a suicidal 14-year-old armed with a gun was sitting beside me that morning. Go to a school with a chicken coop right outside the school managed by our biology teacher. Left on Friday with 15 perfectly fine chickens. Came back Monday to feathers and dead chickens all over. Turns out they got out and a pack of wild dogs came over and decided it was lunchtime. In middle school, by Philly, we had 3 gun threats in a year just because they became fashionable for no reason, and every single time we had to evacuate. In high school, different state, someone put raisins in the cafeteria microwave for 20 minutes just to be an asshole. Also, a teacher wanted to throw all the HW assignments from the year up into the air, so they drained down all over us, but they stayed in one chunk and hit a student in the face. Edit, clarify. The raisins got super burnt and stunk up the cafeteria. My freshman year, a guy, let's call him Jack, who was in my group of party friends, also a freshman, stole $10,000 from a dad of one of the guys in the group. Fled to Mexico. We're in Michigan. With a 22-year-old, let's call him Brian, oldest of our group. Jack and Brian are found 30 minutes from the border with $8,000 worth of coke and $1,500 worth of pot. I'm not sure what happened to Brian, no one talks about him anymore. But Jack got charged with manufacturing and was in juvie until 17, then came back to my high school for maybe 3 months and was caught for dealing pot shortly after.